there's piles that eventually of mail or bills or whatever, eventually you walk by them and you think you're not noticing them. You just walk by and they're just there and they're a permanent fixture on your countertop. But the reality is you're not ignoring them. You don't realize it. Your brain is still registering and it's creating this mental fatigue. And we don't need any more mental fatigue, because if you're using your brain to become mindful and be present, to be able to eat the food that's nourishing and to also use other ways to cope than eating food when you're stressed out, we don't need to have that mental fatigue of walking by something that's there every day that needs to be cleaned up. I'm your host, Kim Hines, and welcome to the Emotional Eats podcast. I'm on a mission to show you that what you consume, not just the food, affects your entire life. Midlife is different. Let's dig into the real reasons why you eat when you're not hungry and why you're not feeling well. My guest and I are going to give you doable solutions and help you let go of perfectionism, food rules, and stress to make changes that will last a lifetime. If you're ready to ditch old school diet culture and nourish your entire life, this is the show for you. Welcome to episode 58 of the Emotional Eats podcast. Today we're talking about clutter, and you're thinking, what does clutter have to do with health? Well, believe it or not, every time we are distracted by physical or digital clutter, it's actually making it much harder for us to stay with our healthy habits. It's harder for us to take care of our mental and physical well-being. I even tell some stories that are kind of embarrassing about my own physical and digital clutter. Now, physical clutter could be anything from what's on your countertops to in your car to all the clothes that you're not wearing because you don't fit in them anymore. And then think about all that digital clutter. We talk about all the notifications and tabs open, and even your TV with all the choices of shows that we can watch. But all of this disorganization can breed anxiety, procrastination. You're not thinking very clearly. And we really need that mental energy to go towards our health and mindfulness and peace so that we aren't turning to food to cope. So hopefully you will learn some quick ideas to declutter your world so that you can reclaim your space and reclaim your life, because living with less clutter is definitely an investment in your total well-being. Let me know what you think on Instagram at Kim Hines Health, and thank you so much for listening. Hi there. Welcome to the Emotional Eats podcast. If you're new, welcome. My name is Kim. And if you are returning, thank you so much. I appreciate you for coming back and listening in. As many of you know who have been listening to the show, as a nutritional health coach, I'm helping women over 40 who are really struggling with weight loss, feeling comfortable in their skin, dealing with menopause symptoms. And the one thing that we always want to do is blame it on ourselves, saying that we are failing at dieting, we don't have willpower, we don't have discipline, we just aren't capable of being strong enough and having control over our food. But there are so many things that play into using food as a coping mechanism, and food is really the last stop. Food is the easiest thing to make us feel better. And if you've been listening to the show at all or following me on Instagram, you know that I share all the different things that lead us to using food, sugar, salty, fat, any of this snacking that you do, especially when it's mindless. It's really a result of feelings, emotions, stress, things that you've had going on throughout the day or over weeks or over months. And some of it even relates back to as far back as our childhood. You know, maybe we had some very emotional or traumatic things happen when we were younger. So today's topic is going to be about clutter, and it's going to be about organization in your life and how that really affects you, and how food can be the bottom line to make you feel better when you don't want to deal with some of those things that you really need to take care of in your life. And so here comes the embarrassing part. And I often share embarrassing things on the episodes just to make sure you know you're not alone. Even as a nutritional health coach, I am always a work in progress. And I love helping clients because so many women cross over in a lot of these areas, and you are not alone. I'm hearing these stories over and over again. So when a client brought this particular situation up in her own home, I thought it would probably be a good idea to do an episode because somebody else might be feeling this. Sometimes I have people who are perfectionists that I work with, and everything has to be neat and orderly. And there are people who are perfectionists who really want it to be neat and orderly, but there's something stopping them from getting their house in order or their space in order. And then there's some people who just feel off and mentally they just can't do that, or they think in their mind that they like having everything out and having the piles and accumulating more and more things. So let's talk about it. So the first embarrassing thing is I got a notice from Gmail recently that said that my inbox and my emails were taking up 75% of the space that I had. That's really hard to do, by the way. That's really hard to do in Gmail because there is so much space. And when I went in, because of all of the social things and the promotions and so many people reaching out, there's people that I've never even heard of that reach out to me and ask to be an ambassador, or they're just random advertisements, whatever's coming through. I had 20,000 plus emails in there. And I just hadn't been paying attention to that little number and the upright, right side of your screen, 20,000 plus messages. And you can't just easily delete them out. If you go online and you look it up and say, how can I, do this mass email delete? They have these instructions, but it didn't work. So I literally had to go 50 to 100 at a time and delete them. But once I knew that was in there, it created this mental block for me. I could not move forward with my work until I cleaned that out. The other little embarrassing thing about me, which is actually a good thing, is I cannot do anything until my bed is made in the morning. Wasn't always like that, but there's something about looking in your bedroom and being able to look across a clean, flat space as opposed to all the covers all over the place. For some reason, when I make my bed in the morning, there are two things that happen. One, it checks off a task. It checks off something that I did that I can see right away. I can see the outcome and I can see how smooth it is. But number two, it doesn't create any room for me to have more mess in there, because when it's neat, I want to fold my clothes and put them away. And when it's messy, I don't feel that incentive to keep it nice and neat in the bedroom, because I have another bad habit is I'll take off a pair of running shorts or a t-shirt that I wear at the end of the day. You come home, you just want to get out of those work clothes. That is me. And I put on my uniform of running shorts and a t-shirt or a tank top. And what happens is if I'm not working out in the evening, because I mostly do it in the morning, it's a new clean set. So I leave it on my dresser so that in the morning, that's what I will wear. I'll get up and put that on to work out in the morning. Not so much now because it's starting to get really hot in Florida and very humid. So I am going through 2 outfits a day. But when it's cooler out, I can reuse that outfit. So instead of putting it away in the drawer, I leave it on the dresser and it creates this like messiness. So I'm sharing this with you because I do know how it impacts me. It impacts me mentally, and it actually makes me feel a certain way. And sometimes when we create clutter, we don't minimize, or we have a lot of unorganization in our life, that transfers over into our health physically, emotionally, and mentally. So I thought we would dig into that. And if any part of this resonates with you, maybe you can find a way to move forward through it that will help you feel better. So we're surrounded, think about in our modern lives right now, we are completely surrounded by clutter. There's physical clutter filling up our homes. We are a consumer driven America here. We're just buying and buying and buying. Amazon's delivering packages all the time, and I'm no different. And what I don't do is when something new comes into my closet, I'm not cleaning it out all the time. And things, are falling off hangers after a while. I don't have the space to store things. There's things that I hang on to. So let's talk about that too. Hanging on to old things that you don't use anymore and you could be blessing someone else with. I have a hard time with that. And I'll tell you where I'm not sure I would call it hoarding, but my hanging on to things just to be safe comes from when I was younger. I definitely had the benefit of growing up with a family that was frugal. And we, saved Ziploc bags and things like that. I remember my dad saving Ziploc bags and washing them out and tin foil and things like that. And there's a benefit to that. Obviously, there can be the other extreme to that, but learning to be frugal and save money. And that's a habit. But also, I was a single mom for about 7 years. And during that time, I was so concerned about money. I never wanted to give anything away because I might wear that shirt sometime. I might wear those shoes sometime. I might need whatever I thought it was that I was going to get rid of. And even thrift store shopping, you can create so much clutter because it doesn't cost as much. So you can really overdo it by getting a deal on things. If you've ever, bought something on sale and then later find out that it really wasn't that great of quality, it wasn't worth having, it was just because it was on sale. There's different mindsets. And when we buy something, if we don't absolutely love it, we don't absolutely use it, it's still sometimes hard to get rid of based on your limiting beliefs and based on beliefs that you have from when you were younger or from a previous time in your life. So does that resonate with you at all, that it's hard to get rid of things? So I have some clients that have no problem. They'll come in, they'll just clean it all out. They'll be able to pretty much become a minimalist, and not all of my clients can do that. And I know I've struggled with that also. But we also have clutter in our workspaces. So think about the piles of things that you may have. There are some people who are really amazing at filing, they're organized, they have that. And there's probably a little bit of perfectionism. I'm not diagnosing anybody when I say OCD either. I'm saying that as, people will use that term around people who are very neat. It's not always a bad thing. And putting all those things away. And what I used to believe is that I needed those piles out so I would remember to do the things that were in those piles. And if anybody asked me, I would know exactly what was in each pile and I could find what I was looking for. But there was some mistrust with myself that I would forget to do something. So instead of creating some kind of to-do list somewhere, whether it was on paper or digitally, I did not feel comfortable putting things away. I was sure that I would forget them. But guess what? They're sitting in the piles. It wasn't like I was remembering that anyway. So those can create mental stress though, because there's things in there that need to be done. And you have to figure out, why am I not getting them done? Why am I not taking the time to put that away? Then we have that digital clutter, like the 20,000 emails. I cannot believe I just admitted that out loud. But tons of digital clutter, things that we save, things that we have in our phones, things that we have on our computers that are so not necessary anymore. And if you think about it, in this digital world, there isn't anything that we couldn't get a hold of later. And I do have, I want to share this one tip. I have an app called Evernote. And in Evernote, I can take pictures of those pieces of paper and I can file them digitally. And it's just an app I have on my phone. I can use it on my computer too, but I do it on my phone. And, whether it's reservations or plane reservations or something that I want to keep track of, I can put that into Evernote. I also use, for those of you who are business people, entrepreneurs, I use Asana as my project manager because I do need to have a place to put everything. But I'm going to admit something else. I love to write things down. So I'm the queen of to-do lists, and I have to be careful with that because I could have 100 things on my to-do list, and that creates mental clutter. And that creates this clutter in my head It's physical because it's on a list, but it's also mental because I see too many things. And my advice to you, if you keep lists, is to only pick 2 to 3 things a day so that you can feel accomplished and that you can feel not overwhelmed. And I'll give you some other tips in just a little while. So, you know that I've told you about the inbox. That's embarrassing. It's an overload, and I can't have focus when I've got all those things open. How many of you keep your tabs open on your computer and have 5 different tabs open? Even as I'm recording this podcast, I have 3 other tabs open that are totally not necessary right now. And a little bit of clutter seems harmless, but too much can really take a toll on your mental health, your physical well being, and it can really take a toll on your healthy habits. Because sometimes when we get stuck in one area of our life, we get stuck in other areas. So we really want to try to eliminate that as much as possible. It's like having dishes in the sink that can really hold you up from doing other things. Or it could be like me. If I don't do the dishes as I go, if I see something and I'm trying to sit down and work, I will do anything. It becomes procrastination for me to deal with that clutter. It's a procrastination to not have to get to work if I do the dishes first, smooth out the table, put the papers away. And we want to get rid of those things that are going to get us stuck in some way during the day. It doesn't have to just be stuck with your health, but sometimes that'll make me stuck in going to work out and getting that workout done right away, getting out the door to walk. And I know people, some of my clients are late everywhere they go because they're stuck at home because of the clutter and things. And they can't find what they're looking for, or they're trying to clean up before they leave instead of doing it as they go. So, let's talk about this physical clutter too. When we have, as women, having lost and gained weight, if we have different sizes of clothing in our closets, this can be a problem because when you have a size that's too big, you're not trusting yourself that you can stay where you are and stay healthy and stay where you want to be. And it's almost giving you a scare too, like, "Oh, that could happen again." So I highly recommend getting rid of those bigger sizes. If you have sizes that are too small and you think you're gonna get back there, that's another way of saying to yourself, "I can't love myself right now, and I'm not here right now. I'm thinking about the future." And keeping those clothes, maybe I understand, hey, I don't want to buy clothes again if I do get to that size again. But what might be better if you're not ready to get rid of them, put them in some bins and get them in a space where you're not seeing them every day. You have them, they're in another room, they're in another closet, but you don't have to look at those every day. You can live in today. This is what feels good on my body right now. This is what makes me feel comfortable. This is what I can walk out into the world in today. So, also thinking about countertops when you're walking in the room every day. I don't know about you, but there's piles that eventually of mail or bills or whatever, eventually you walk by them and you think you're not noticing them. You just walk by and they're just there and they're a permanent fixture on your countertop. But the reality is you're not ignoring them and you don't realize it. Your brain is still registering and it's creating this mental fatigue. And we don't need any more mental fatigue because if you're using your brain to become mindful and be present, to be able to eat the food that's nourishing and to also use other ways to cope than eating food when you're stressed out, we don't need to have that mental fatigue of walking by something that's there every day that needs to be cleaned up. So, countertops, it's important to be able to see that space and walk by. And sometimes when we overcrowd our space with things, it is a constant drain on our brain and just being unorganized and not having a plan. One thing that I do recommend is if you feel like you have a lot of clutter around your house, and this is why I love working with women over 40, because at this point, if you have kids, they're usually older. You can make them more responsible for their own rooms. You can have them helping you. Or if your kids are out, you're in charge. When you have little kids, there's always unorganization. disorganization, whatever the right word is for that. It's always going to be a little bit chaotic. There's toys out, and sometimes we have to let go and live with that. But if it is something that plays on your mind and it's hard, that might be something every night to take care of. So you can at least start the morning, start the day fresh. But it does zap our energy, and clutter really bombards your senses. It can make you feel anxious, helpless, and overwhelmed. So take every day, take a timer. It does not have to be long, and you don't have to get it done. For my all or nothing people who are also all in a diet or all out, this might be a little bit hard, but take your timer and set it for 10 minutes and just really do only for 10 minutes that decluttering, find places. And when you go through piles, I think you'll be amazed at how many things you don't need. If you haven't seen it for a long time, you didn't need it, and you can probably actually shred it or throw it out. 10 minutes. I do the same thing in my bathroom because how many of you have a bathroom counter that is covered? My mom came to visit once and she said, "Hey, you don't have anything on your counter in the bathroom. Like, where are your products?" And I said, "Well, I put them all away because you are coming." But for the most part, I have probably 10 different vitamins and minerals sitting out there. The vitamin D3 and the magnesium. And then I have, thyroid medicine, and I have hormones, and I have my moisturizer, as if I'm going to forget, because I do the same thing every day. The same thing with the supplements. I really do think I'm going to forget if they're not sitting out there. Obviously, we keep a toothbrush out and things like that. But when she came, I had actually cleaned everything up and it felt so nice and so clean. But it makes it really hard on a practical level. It makes cleaning harder if you have to pick up first. And you lose time when you misplace things and they don't go back to the same place over and over again, running late, and that creates stress. And every time we spike our cortisol with that stress, we have this opportunity to not only be throwing, blood sugars into our system. We don't want sugars in our system, in our bloodstream, but we also don't want to have that opportunity to be so stressed out in that fight or flight mode that we end up using food to come down. So that's really all that physical stuff. And I'm sure you can think of 100 examples of your own. Just even seeing like a dirty patio. It could be outside too. Could be your car. Oh my goodness. I have people in my world who have so much stuff in their car. It's almost like they're living out of their car. And every time they get in, there's just this bombardment of trash and things. I luckily know a guy. My stepson is a mobile detail. He owns his own business. So I am really taking advantage of that, of having him clean my car once in a while because I have to pick it up. I used to laugh because my mom had a house cleaner and we would have to pick up. I cleaned the house. I was her house cleaner for many, many years. It would take me 2 days. But when she decided to have someone do it, we had to pick up the house before the house cleaner came. So think about that for yourself. If you're cleaning your own house, you have to do a lot of pickup before you can clean if you're not keeping things picked up. And again, this is all going against your mental abilities to be staying calm and being in peace. Because when we emotionally eat, we binge eat, or we reach for snacks, it's because we are not in peace. We're not in peace with ourselves. There's some kind of chaos going on. So let's go back to digital clutter. I already told you my story about the ridiculous amount of emails that I had in there. And then also just the fact that I really thought I was going to read a lot of these emails. I subscribed to a crazy amount of emails because these people are wonderful. They have lots to say. They're amazing. Sometimes I get certain types of news because I don't watch the news. But I just realized what I really need to do, and this is my suggestion for you, don't subscribe to everything. If you do subscribe, unsubscribe to anything you haven't been reading recently. But also know that if you want that information, you know how to find it on the internet. You can go out and find it. But every time we get notifications, so let's talk about the phone too. Every single time you have a notification, it creates mental fatigue. It creates another way that your brain has to work that could be going towards taking care of your health. It could be towards walking. It could be towards exercising or learning something new, but you're getting all these messages. So I highly recommend go in and one, turn off all the notifications for things that you can go in and check when you're ready. I don't have notifications on my email or Instagram or anything like that. I know I'm going to check that. I don't need to know. I don't need to know that I have, 30 people trying to get in touch with me. I don't need to know that I have so many likes. I don't need to know that. When I'm ready to know, I will know. When someone's reaching out to me, through direct messaging on Instagram, I honor them and I do want to get back to them, but I want to also give them my presence and being in a good state of mind to have a conversation. Because if I'm just doing it constantly and I'm constantly having these conversations, I'm not really with that person. I'm not really giving them my full present being. I'm just returning, and just trying to get them done as if they're part of my to-do list. And that's not how I want to treat people. I highly recommend, here's some major digital mental fatigue. Unfollow anyone that makes you feel less than. Unfollow those accounts that make you feel icky in your body. Unfollow those accounts that make you feel like there's conflict going on. Unfollow those accounts that just make you feel a certain way that is not that you're growing or in peace or learning something or enlightened or lifting up other people. That is a way to create so much more mental fatigue. And again, I'm bringing this all back to how we treat our bodies. When you're spiking that cortisol, it's creating something in your body that's going to need some help to bring it back down. And we really don't want to bring insulin into play and mess with our insulin sensitivity. And cortisol can do that when you're doing it on an ongoing basis. And so we don't even really realize how much it's happening to us when we start really breaking all this down. We think, oh, I'm not having any stress, but we do have this underlying low key stress that's constantly happening through our phone and on the computer. And it can, just like physical clutter, all of this digital pinging and disorganization can breed anxiety, procrastination, the inability to think clearly. And sometimes it helps us not even realize who we really are. We're listening to everybody else's opinions. We're spending a lot of time looking at other people's information instead of gathering what we really think is good for us. And let me be clear that I do believe that the digital world, there's so many great things out there right now. I even have an argument for some of the AI that people are using now. I believe it's a great space. We have to be very intelligent, really know ourselves and really question what we see, but we really can find some amazing things that are very enlightening out there too. So let's talk about the mental burden though of having all this clutter. It makes your brain have to work so much harder and you have to filter out distractions. And I don't know about you, but I am absolutely distracted all the time. Ever since menopause, I think I'm 10 times more distracted. Something that I shared with my clients and I've been sharing in my stories is I want to bring this to you. I heard it on another podcast. And I think this app has been tremendous in helping me sit down and not only create a space for me to work without getting distracted, but it also has helped me get more creative. I even use it for meditation. I don't need it for sleep, luckily, but some people do. Brain FM. Brain FM app has been incredible. It has music to certain beats that helps you really zone in, and it's going in the background. There's so many different settings. And what I love about the focus section of Brain FM app is I love that you can pick which focus you're doing. Are you working on something creative? Are you studying and reading? Are you doing deep work? Are you doing light work? You really have a lot of those choices. You have choices of the instrumentation. You have choices of the nature sounds. It's such a great app. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not getting anything back for bringing them up. I'm just sharing because I really want you to have a choice if there's something that you're working on. I will even put it on if I just need to chill out for a little while. They have a guided and unguided meditation portion of the app, and sometimes I just need to sit for a minute, but I can't turn my mind off, and so I will use Brain FM to do that. So those distractions will find you. Whether you like it or not, they're going to find you, and it zaps those mental resources, and it can leave you without even realizing it. All these distractions can leave you feeling drained, unmotivated, and again, anxious. Clutter overloads your mind. It's so hard to process information and the truth about things and retain your memories and come up with all these creative new ideas when you're constantly distracted. And I feel like we need, as much as we need rest for our bodies, we really do need rest. We need self care, rest, stillness. I think we need mental rest too. And when we are trying to do so many things in a day, we don't need anything else working against us. So let's talk about these physical things too. When you are distracted by clutter, you have too much stuff in your environment, too many things pinging at you. It can affect your sleep. It can affect your eating behaviors. And we really talked about this a lot throughout this episode. But when you have that extra stress and mental fatigue, the easiest thing for us to turn to is food. So when I work with clients, the biggest thing that we work on, if emotional eating, binge eating, overeating is something that my clients deal with, we really look at the entire life. We have a circle of life that's so full of other things besides just food. And food is so important in how we nourish, and if we're cooking, if we're doing things at home, if we're in community. But really, everything else also plays into this. How are your relationships? How's your home life? How is work? How is your physical movement and activity? How's your spirituality? How is your environment in both your work and your home space? There's so many different things that come into play that we can't just put this on food. That's why we're bringing this up today. But also, you can increase that stress, increase that tension. And another tip that I often use that I'll share with you that I do with clients is tapping. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I really don't understand tapping, I don't know much about tapping, please feel free to go to at Kim Hines Health on Instagram. Send me a DM and let me know that, because I can either send you a video after we kind of know what you need to work on, or we can actually just do a free 30-minute call and I can do a tapping session with you to bring down that. When we bring down that tension and we calm the nervous system and we bring ourselves back into a calm state, it's so much easier to make decisions, really good decisions for our bodies. Sometimes that mental clutter, that digital clutter, that physical clutter can also really keep us sedentary. If we're stuck in those areas, sometimes we're stuck in getting up and moving. It's so hard to get out the door when you're not feeling motivated, when you feel weighed down. So we talk about body weight all the time. In this world, all we talk about is losing weight, losing weight, losing weight. But weight comes in many forms. Weight comes in relationship, having a struggles in the relationship. Weight comes in emotional and traumatic things that have happened to us. Weight comes in the stuff that's around your home that makes you feel like you're crowded in on. Weight comes in so many different forms. So remember that it's sometimes when we lose weight in other areas of our life, we actually lose weight in our bodies also, because we're calming down, we're relaxing, we're taking away toxic and stressful things that are in our lives. And when we live in cramped quarters, it's really important to do things for yourself, like cleaning that area out, making it very clear and light and comfortable. But when we live in a cramped space, it's also really good to do physical things for your body, even in a small space, whether it's stretching, yoga, air squats, just giving yourself some physical lifting up. I guess you can call that physical lifting up. And I really feel like in the end, clutter sabotages even your best efforts for a healthy healthy lifestyle. When we clean up around us, we're cleaning up inside also. So I'd love for you to reclaim your space, because when you reclaim your space, you can reclaim your life. And some people who are listening to this will be saying, well, I don't have a dirty space. I like to clean. I like to have things cleaned up. But look at all areas of your life. Are you cleaning out on the phone? Are you cleaning out on social media? Are you cleaning out in your friend group? Are you getting away from toxic relationships? Are you decluttering the things that make you unhappy and sad? Are you clearing all that out so that you can make space in your world to feel really good and feel really good about yourself and to be able to be yourself and reclaim your life? The good news is decluttering can have such a revitalizing effect emotionally and physically. And when you bring in that light emotionally and physically, you regain control over your surroundings and yourself. So I will often say, if you want to feel in control with food, start with the things you can control. You can control what you buy at the grocery store. You can control what your kitchen looks like. You can control if you get to eat, a home cooked meal. Of course, that's if you have a kitchen. And I say that because I have a couple clients who are renovating their kitchens right now. So I understand that sometimes we're in a space for a very short amount of time that we just can't do what we want to be doing. You just do the best you can, but we regain a sense of control over our surroundings. So having control over food does not mean it's only control over food. It's having control over the things in your life that you can control. And we have less stuff that's going to pull you in these different directions. And it's going to help you be more creative, help you have some quality time, help you feel like, hey, I might want to bring more people over and cultivate. When you do some great things with decluttering, it's on the road to healthy habits also, because you see that it is a task. You can see the outcome, you can see what it produces. It's right there in front of you. It feels so nice and clean. And it's an investment. Living in a clutter-free world is an investment in your total well-being. And just designate some time. And 10 minutes is not long. If you think about in our world, 10 minutes is so short to just run through the house and clean up just one space. You pick one space, go through the house and pick one space that you can do in 10 minutes, or at least get started on. And again, I mentioned all or nothing people. I'm an all or nothing person, and I have a very bad habit. Let's talk about my work projects. I have a very bad habit of not sitting down and taking care of something until I know I have 3 or 4 hours to take care of it. Instead of just sitting down, getting it done, I have a very bad habit of saying, I need to block out an incredible amount of time to do this, instead of saying, what can I do in the next hour? So if you are someone who's like that, I'll share with you what I've started doing. I told you I have the Asana project manager, but you can write this down on a piece of paper too. I have a project and I write down all the steps that need to be done. And when I have an hour between clients, I look at that list and I find out what's one thing that I can do on this list and get done. Maybe it's something to do with the podcast. I can post in less than an hour. I can post about the podcast for the week. If it's something that has to do with the membership, I will. I can do one thing. Start creating information to send out to everyone. At home, I can clean up one pile. I can pay 3 bills. I can clean off my bathroom counter. Even if I don't get to actually clean the bathroom, I can clean off the counter in 10 minutes. I can make the bed and fold the clothes that I have in there in 10 minutes. So here's another trick too. If you are, this is a funny story with my husband. When I met Mike and we were dating, his house is where my kids and I moved into after we got married, and he had 2 kids. And there was one room that is now renovated, but the room was technically the dining room. He had created a I guess a guest room. There was a bed in there, and it was technically the dining room, so it was off the kitchen, and you could walk from our laundry room through the kitchen to that that guest bedroom. Well, when I first started dating him, I would come over and there was a pile, and I'm talking high, heaped up pile of clothes that were just wrinkled and thrown on that bed. And as a joke, he would call that the executive folding chamber. And so basically, him and the kids would just go into the executive folding chamber, AKA dining room, AKA guest bedroom. They would just take the laundry out of the dryer and just throw it on the bed. And then if they needed a uniform for school or he needed something, he would grab it and they'd iron it and go. So it's funny because I'm the opposite. I could not deal with that. So, and I can't stand laundry sitting in a basket after it comes out of the dryer. But there were times in menopause, and those of you ladies who've gone through perimenopause, you lack motivation, you lack feeling good, you lack the feeling of wanting to get up and do things. And procrastination is huge. If you went through what I went through, that's just, many of the symptoms right there, anxious thoughts. And I could not, I would wait 2 or 3 loads would be done. And then I would eventually finally fold these clothes. But now that I'm feeling better back on, I'm on hormone therapy and whatnot, I have that motivation again. So please remember too, this could be clutter can affect health, but health can affect clutter. So now we do not have the executive folding chamber. When that laundry comes out, I don't want to have to iron it either. So it's warm and I can fold it and get it done. So the point to that is, you go through seasons. When you have 4 little kids, that might have served us to have that room just to have the laundry until we could, get to it. But now, the health is good. The season is different. There aren't a lot of kids in the house. And you may actually be going through perimenopause. And so some of those things you will need to give yourself a little room and a little bit of love and no judgment. Just be an observer and know that, hey, until I'm feeling better, this is how it's going to be. And I'll just do the best that I can. So health can affect clutter. Clutter can affect health. It goes both ways. So I hope that this has helped you and it helped that you to feel like you can have some intentionality when you're cleaning up, and also know that every time you clean, I hope you give yourself a little pat on the back because it's a task that's done. You get to see it. This is not self-care, ladies. I just want to make it very clear. Decluttering is not self-care. Self-care is really doing things that give you joy. Just because it makes you feel good to get it done, that's not self-care. I still really want you to add in something every day that makes you just feel good, feel relaxed, have joy in it. This is a to-do, and I'm very excited for my clients who feel like when they clean their space out, they clean their brain out, and they feel better about taking care of their bodies also. If you listen to this episode and you love it and have some comments, I would love to hear from you on Instagram at Kim Hines Health. And as you heard me mention the membership, soon I'll be announcing the opening of the membership that is going to help you really feel that transformation of learning to have food freedom, get away from that emotional eating, and really understand all the different things, exactly like what we talked about today. There's so many things that come into play, but also help you feel community with other women that are working on the same things, and they get you. They understand you because they're going through it also. And I'll keep you posted on all of those details. And if you love the show, please make sure you give us a 5-star rating and review. And thank you for listening today. Make sure to nourish your entire life and give yourself grace today. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning into the Emotional Eats podcast, the podcast that's here to help you feel amazing, strong, energetic, and healthy holistically in your mind and your body. But my guest and I also want to help you build great habits to help you with long-term mental and physical health so that you can lean into aging in a very positive and strong way. Check out my website, kimhines.com, and please come see me on Instagram at kimhineshealth. That's where I leave tips for healthy life, healthy body, healthy relationship with food, and I also am there to encourage you, and I love to hear from you. So tag me and let me know what you like about the show and what you want to hear more about. Check out the show notes for all the details. Make sure to rate and review the podcast. And until our next time together, nourish your entire life and give yourself grace today.